Good morning, everyone. Glad you made it out on the second day. We have a very special guest today, all the way from Boston, Massachusetts. Circle is based out of Boston. And then I actually didn't know this. Circle is actually nearing its 10 years in its existence this October.
We've just passed our 10-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah. So Circle is one of the oldest institutions in crypto. That's a weird term to say because crypto is such a young industry. But Circle, as you know, for USDC, the stablecoin that powers, which is a backbone of digital assets at the moment, came to existence about 10 years ago. And then for the Korean audience here, Jeremy, it would be great if you can provide some background. What was your initial idea and thesis when you were starting Circle back 10 years ago?
Sure, and it's super exciting to be here in Korea. As I say in many parts of the world, it's amazing to me how vibrant the global ecosystem is and how much activity there is everywhere. So it's very clear that that continues to be the case here in Korea. A little bit of the inspiration, before starting Circle, I spent about 20 years building internet infrastructure for building software on the internet, for media distribution on the internet, communications on the internet, and was always interested in how open networks, distributed systems, and open software could improve how different parts of society operated. And that's what really drew me to crypto about 12 years ago. And I think the inspiration behind Circle was this idea that a kind of missing layer of the internet was emerging with blockchains, and that it would become possible, and this was when we started around 10 years ago, we believed that it would become possible to build what we called an HTTP for money, meaning a protocol for money. And we were thinking about money specifically in terms of traditional money, so government obligation money, government debt money. But if we could represent it in a digital currency form, but allow it to be used on an open protocol in the same way that we have open protocols for information and communications, that would be extremely powerful and would eventually allow money to move at the speed of the internet in an open, interoperable way, and eventually lower the cost of storing and transferring money to zero. And then the other idea was, my background originally was in building developer platforms, programming languages, infrastructure for building the web in the mid-90s. And the idea of programmable money, which was really, as I say, an idea on a napkin over 10 years ago, but that idea that smart contracts would emerge and you could have, programmable money was very exciting, and we believe would eventually become possible. And all of those ideas took a long time to develop, but eventually led to the launch of USDC.
Back in those days, which is 2013 and 2014 being the actual early days of crypto, were you worried about any type of regulation that did exist at the time, making a stable coin and potential implications that could potentially affect the business? Is there some vision that you had that some sort of future will shape out along that line?
From day one, we believed that if we wanted to build a new internet financial system, it needed to integrate with the existing financial system, and it needed to be something that where there were clear policies and rules around that integration. And so we didn't start the company until there were the first regulations in the United States. In March of 2013, the United States Treasury Department was the first government in the world to issue clear regulations for any firm that integrated the banking system with blockchains. And then we, as a company, have always sought to work with governments. We've always sought out the clearest policy, and we became the most licensed and regulated company in this entire industry in our first 5 years. And it was only because of that that we were able to launch USDC in 2018. We built something that was compliant, regulated, and integrated into the core financial system. One of the reasons why people love USDC so much is that it is actually compliant, transparent, and liquid. You can always redeem it through the banking system, and it's only because of our constructive work with policymakers, constructive work with regulators, that we've made that possible, and that continues to be the strategy of the company.
With all these new regulations coming in the US and also enforcement actions by SEC and other entities, what kind of initiative is Circle taking on the ground in DC or with other governments to adopt the current regulatory landscape with the new product that Circle's launching or new initiatives that Circle's doing, especially on a global scale, working with different central banks and different regulators, aiming for USDC to go global and cross-border?
Yeah, so as I said, we have always invested in working with governments. Yeah. And from the very earliest days, I personally would spend time meeting with government leaders in every major country that I would visit. And that would be leaders in central banks, in finance ministries, other regulators, because it's really important when you have a new technology like this to always be doing the hard work of educating. Now, I think it's been amazing to see the huge progress that's been happening all around the world with policies and regulation around digital assets. We've seen more progress in the past year than the entire previous 9 years combined. And my view right now is that by the time we get to 2025, the digital asset industry, both the markets side of it as well as the stablecoin side of it, are going to be consistently and comprehensively regulated in every G20 market in the world. So we're seeing huge progress, and I view it as progress. I think there are some who view that as a really negative thing. My own belief is that until you have a legal basis for digital assets and a legal basis for things like stablecoins, you will not see mass scale adoption. Society, whether it be households or corporations or financial institutions themselves, they will not embrace this and use it until there is that regulation in place. And specifically, I don't know how much people have been watching, but several years ago, the G20 came together and came up with a set of recommendations for stablecoin rules around the world. And they all agreed at the G20 summit, we're going to do this. And that's now working its way through all of these major countries. And so each country in the G20 has a different process. Some come through direct guidance or rules issued by the regulator. Some require a kind of approval through Parliament or Congress or the different legal bodies. But we're seeing that. And people always ask about, is there going to be regulatory clarity for stablecoins? We have regulatory clarity. In Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Japan, in the UK, in Europe, in the UAE, and in bills that are making their way through the United States Congress right now, there are relatively consistent rules emerging for fiat stablecoins. And I think by this time next year, digital dollars like USDC and other issued digital fiat stablecoins will essentially be treated as a core part of the global financial system. And that's an extremely exciting moment. And it will finally allow us to see this used by billions of people and millions of businesses around the world.
That's amazing. One of the things that gets brought up is mass adoption. Obviously, I'm a personal user of USDC. I get paid in USDC for all my paychecks.
Thank you.
And so thank you for that. So USDC has had a head start in the US. Obviously, it's a US dollar pegged stablecoin. A lot of people are already using it, early adopters and so institutions, companies that people like me who get paid in USDC. What kind of regions are you looking at to get the most adoption? I know you're doing a big Asia trip this September, also headed to Singapore after. Really love to know how you're seeing the APAC region specifically, and then within that region, like which country or certain like jurisdiction seems to be more taking a lead on this mass adoption initiative.
Thank you. Yeah. So, our view is that stablecoins are inherently global. They have the reach of the internet, and the whole power of this technology is that if you have an internet connection and you have a piece of software or hardware connected to the internet, then you can freely transact in these types of digital currency. And that kind of reach of the internet is so important. What we also know is that whether it's in trading and markets, or in cross-border transactions, or in peer-to-peer transactions, digital commerce, digital media, all these different areas, that digital dollars are likely going to be the most highly used digital currency. And so it's a very global reach, and there's a high demand for trusted, transparent, digital dollars that can be used. So we've always looked at this as very global. And in some ways that mirrors the existing global reach and use of the dollar itself today. But I think the internet can make that, can change that even more. Now, when you look at what we're doing as a company, we have a very significant focus on international growth. Around 70% of the use of USDC is outside of North America. And so it's already highly global. And the markets where we see the highest demand and growth are in Asia, which is the largest, in Latin America, in Middle East and Africa, in a lot of markets where the demand exists. It exists because of the strength of the dollar. It exists because of challenging currencies in other places. But it also exists because within the digital asset markets, people need that reliable token. I think, just as examples, last week we announced a partnership with Mercado Pago, which is part of Mercado Libre. They're the Amazon of Latin America. They have a company with 200 million users. They're beginning to roll out USDC. That's a really key piece. You're going to see a lot more from us in Latin America, many partnerships around that region. You're going to see a lot more partnerships coming from us here in Asia as well. We also, last week, had Shopify add USDC support through a payment plugin. Today, Visa announced that they're actually integrating USDC for merchant settlement, which is a really, really exciting development. And they're using USDC on the Solana blockchain to do that. So we're seeing major companies with a lot of different areas of focus. For Asia specifically, though, it is the single largest investment area for Circle. I think we have around 120 employees in Asia today. We have big investments in engineering, product, go-to-market, policy, regulatory. We have a headquarters for Asia in Singapore. We're opening up more branches. And so we view Asia as probably the largest and most important overall growth market. So there's a lot to do here. And we're very excited because we're seeing, for example, in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Japan, just 3 examples recently, very clear stablecoin policies. And of course, some may be aware that we recently became a major payments institution, which is a very significant level of regulation over our digital currency activity out of Singapore. So there's a lot we're doing here in Asia, and we see opportunities to partner with top companies in the region in many different verticals, both existing kind of crypto industry, but also more and more we're forging partnerships with large commerce companies, with large internet companies, with other financial companies, and so the partnership opportunities here are immense.
To your last point, is there a specific vertical within all across this industry that have the most innovative attitude to adopt this technology, or is it, would you say, that broadly speaking, everyone is open to just to experiment?
Well, we're seeing, a lot of companies that have a consumer franchise that is, an internet-based consumer franchise want to build Web3 native capabilities into their products. And so that could be in the gaming industry, that could be in consumer kind of super app type products, messaging, commerce. So consumer-facing companies clearly seeing that digital tokens are a new building block. Those digital tokens, whether they're non-fungible tokens or stable coins or other types of tokens that are issued, are going to be a part of how, if you're building a highly engaged consumer base, you're going to use that technology. And so that's an area we see a lot of activity. That includes, of course, any kind of fintech. A lot of the consumer fintechs throughout the region need to Web3 enable their own products and services. Most fintech products have historically been what I call lipstick on a pig, meaning they're kind of user interfaces on the legacy world. Now everyone wants to implement and integrate to the more open, more internet native, more modern public chain infrastructure, which is clearly the foundation of the future of the financial system, this new internet financial system.
On the scalability side of things for mass adoption, as more chains on the tech stack side, on the infra side, more chains come about, more like mainnets come about, how does USDC and Circle plan to support all these chains, or is there a certain framework you guys stick to evaluate where to integrate, which, for example, this X company would benefit from certain mainnet over others?
Yeah, so we want to make sure that USDC has the broadest reach in the world as a digital dollar. And we want to make sure that if there are platforms that need digital dollars, where there are developers that are active and building on those platforms, we want to make sure that USDC is available to them. And so we have a big initiative. I call it an omni-chain approach, which is sort of evolving from a multi-chain to an omni-chain approach. Some of you may have seen, we just announced USDC is coming to 6 more chains. In the last 24 hours, we went live with USDC on Base and on Optimism. We recently launched on Arbitrum, and there are many more coming. Now, we focus on layer 1s and layer 2s that have either significant technical innovation or very clear developer activity and traction. We natively issue USDC on those because it's very, very important that we avoid wrapped assets that are dependent on bridges, create huge security risks, vulnerabilities, capital inefficiency, confusion for users, investor protection issues, very dangerous in my view. That's why we also built and launched this year the Cross-Chain Transfer Protocol, CCTP. CCTP enables native-to-native teleporting of USDC across layer 1s and layer 2s. And we are bringing that to almost every chain that we operate on. It allows a user or a wallet developer or an app developer to allow the movement of USDC, say from Arbitrum here to Avalanche there to Ethereum, and then to other chains as well. And it literally will burn USDC natively on one chain and then enable the minting of the USDC on the other chain. So there's no locked asset. There's no dependency on a third-party bridge. And so it's a very powerful protocol. CCTP is really critical. And all of this is aimed at the overall goal of how can we make the user experience of using digital dollars as simple and seamless as possible. Users should not need to know what chain am I using. They shouldn't need to care. Users should not need to know what gas fee is or why it even exists. They should never need to hold commodity tokens to have to pay gas fees. They should use USDC for gas fee payment. And we need user interfaces, UX, to abstract that away. So we're solving all of those problems, and we're trying to make those available as well through our own developer platforms that allow people who want to build Web3 tech into their own consumer applications to do that in a self-service way very, very easily using our programmable wallets, wallet as a service product, and that's sort of part of our broader Web3 services stack, which we've recently rolled out.
Speaking of the omni-chain world and also the broader adoption of USDC, this is actually one of the questions that a lot of attendees has a question for. Let's say each country adopts through Circle their own digital fiat currency. On the foreign exchange side of things, how would the USDC interact with those native digital fiat currencies? And how do we plan to navigate potential like rules around it? I know you're working closely with the regulators. A lot of details that need to be sorted out in order to support that cross-border transaction and swaps.
It's a huge opportunity. I mean, clearly, if you have a capital market that exists that can operate at internet speed and internet scale, that's always on, 24/7, 365, which is exactly what digital asset markets are today, whether it's a centralized exchange or decentralized exchange protocol. We have now, through that world, through the digital asset exchange world, we now have, I believe, capital market infrastructure, which is far superior to legacy capital market infrastructure in many respects. Once we have, dozens and then eventually, many dozens of high quality digital stablecoins, fiat stablecoins that are issued under consistent regulatory treatment so that users of those can know them and trust them, I believe that on-chain FX markets are going to be a huge, huge space, and that we will have the most efficient clearing and settlement of FX that we've ever had, and it will be a programmable, composable building block to anyone, any business, any application developer that needs to transact. And so that should just become as seamless and transparent as how we transfer different photos between different photo platforms, right? So money will cross. I think you'll get to very, very efficient digital asset markets for those different digital fiat tokens. We want to play a really important role in fostering that and supporting that growth. That will take time, but we believe it's going to be a very big category of activity over the next 5 years.
Specifically speaking, I've been hearing a lot of excitement within Korea as well for adopting stablecoin and also taking a huge initiative on taking this technology and making something happen out of it. And is there a specific goal or mission that you're looking to achieve while you're visiting Korea? And especially just throughout this week at KBW, is there a specific insight you want to take from visiting Seoul?
Sure. Well, it's always a privilege to be able to meet with leading developers and investors and exchanges and consumer companies. So for me personally, just really trying to connect with as many participants in the ecosystem as possible is very important. I think I'm very aware of the fact that Korea has gone through different cycles of interest and dismay around this industry, like a lot of other parts of the world. But it's a really important time here because we know that regulation will come, and there's a real opportunity to get it right. In some ways, if Korea ends up building regulation around digital assets, and maybe the laws come a little bit after some other markets, that will actually give Korea an opportunity to learn from what other people are doing and get it right. And so Korea has historically been one of the most innovative technology centers in the world, one of the most innovative markets for consumer internet, in commerce. And so my expectation is that coming through this and coming through 2024, after the election and after regulations come, that Korea is set up to be a huge, huge player in the global space. So I'm hoping to, have Circle be able to be a partner to the leading companies here as they work on this. And we provide open technology like USDC. We provide open technology with like our Web3 services stack. So there's opportunities for us to collaborate with companies today, and then eventually see whether there are new stablecoin issuing opportunities here in the future.
On that note, I think anyone who believes in our industry and digital currency is by default bullish on stablecoins, and having that being adopted throughout different verticals and industries. Is there, looking at 10 years down the line, is there a specific milestone you want to achieve with Circle or with stablecoin adoption in a broader sense?
Well, 10 years is a long time, although we've done 10 years already. I would say, when we started the company 10 years ago, the first idea is that there could be a protocol for, an open protocol for dollars on the internet that could bring the cost of transacting to as close to zero as possible, and that would be open and accessible to any software and hardware on the internet. And 10 years in, I think we're almost there. So we're really close to, I think, achieving the 1.0, the 1.0 vision of the company. And so it's sort of timely to think about the next 10 years. And we always thought about the second 10 years of Circle and the 2.0 as really being about the unleashing of innovation that comes from essentially having a ubiquitous programmable dollar and programmable fiat, but really the innovation being what happens when you can program money. So for us, in the next 10 years, my own belief is that the nature of commerce itself and the way in which financial services are expressed and rendered and delivered will change pretty radically. And I think the next 10 years really does have the chance to be something where an internet financial system achieves true internet scale, and that the developers and creators and entrepreneurs are able to invent things, applications of money that just have never been possible before. And we can't even think about what those are today. Just like when the iPhone came out, we couldn't actually imagine all the things that people would invent through mobile. There was a lot of ideas, but no one really knew how innovative and inventive developers would be. And I think we're at the very beginning of that with programmable money. And so in 10 years, I think the very nature of commerce, of the way people work, the way that corporations function, the way that the financial system operates, it will look quite different in this internet financial system.
Just to wrap up, most people don't know about this, Jeremy, but he has been a serial entrepreneur. You built multiple companies before Circle. There are a lot of developers and entrepreneurs and students here. Is there any advice as they go on about their mission to build their own companies, to stick around through tough times and build something great, like what you did?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of advice I could give. I would say, things are not easy. You go through many peaks and valleys. You suffer many failures, and that's great. it's actually really good to try and fail and to iterate. I think the important thing is to maintain very high conviction, very strong belief. That's really the most essential thing. The bravery, courage, and strong conviction are the most important things to both lead, to help motivate people, and to deal with the challenges that, of course, will arise.
With that, we want to thank Jeremy for showing up early in the morning and coming all the way to Korea. And hope you guys have a great day. And thank you so much for everyone for coming today.
Thank you.